Well, good afternoon, Scott Baker. Hopefully, this is a subject that we can talk about from the right perspective. Not
Okay.
not from
Well,
the perspective of like, oh, I really struggle with this one.
well, I,
But
I, I suppose that the perspective that we would all think that we would want to inhabit is at least the perspective of the cat. Because even though we have a complicated headline, it really just boils down to, are you going to kick the cat?
yeah, right. It's so funny. Are you familiar with Save the Cat, the screenwriter's
No.
technique? Okay, so Blake Snyder was this Blake Blake maybe it wasn't Snyder. I think it
You
is
should
Blake
go.
Snyder. But he wrote the Snyder beat sheet, right? That's why,
Okay.
because it's not
All right.
Zack Snyder. But anyway, but he wrote this book called Save the Cat, and it's all about screenwriting. And
Okay.
it's something that screenwriters kind of reference all the time,
You have to save the
because
cat.
of the way that. But what one thing he points out that a lot of people do is that somewhere at the beginning of the movie,
Mm-hmm.
the screenwriter wants the protagonist to be made aware that this is the guy that you root for.
Sure.
So even if it's like an anti-hero kind
Mm-hmm.
of person, you want your protagonist to do something, have some kind of kindness. And sometimes it's literally saving a cat
Yeah.
out of a tree,
Thus,
right?
in the new Superman movie, Superman saves a squirrel.
He
I haven't
sure
seen the movie
does.
yet, but I understand that the saving of the squirrel is a particular telling moment for this
Which is really funny that you would need, like, most
to
people
make
don't need.
Superman like. Should we be rooting for Superman here?
Yes, exactly. If there's
Yeah.
one movie and one character where you don't need to save the cat, it's that. So, but it is weird that when I should probably write some kind of a field note about it, because uh, when technique in your mind, like this
Okay.
tactic, you're looking for it. So I challenge you now the next several times that you're identifying the save the cat moment. It's always in the first little, the first
Yes.
part
Right.
of the opening part.
Well, yeah.
And you, when you recognize it, you're like, oh, they're trying to make me like this person,
Like this
right?
person. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We do
And
see
but
that.
once you start recognizing it as a tactic, here's the question: does
Hmm.
it actually work for you once you know that it's just a screenwriting tactic, right? Which has implications for leaders everywhere, right?
Sure.
Are you
Right.
doing this because this is really the leader you are, or are you like exercising all these leadership behaviors because it's just tactic, 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 and you think, oh, these are my leadership hacks, which is the one thing
Yeah.
that we don't want you to do, right?
Hmm.
So, but anyway,
Well,
don't
now
take the cat.
I have a theory. I have a theory on current cultural storytelling in movies and such that if we have time, we'll circle back to at the end of our 15
Okay.
minutes together here. This is Lead Better. It is not, I was going to say Siskel and Ebert, but nobody even remembers Siskel and Ebert at this
Yeah,
point, which
right.
is sad. It's sad.
There's
Yeah,
a
you're not,
handful
this
of
is,
people who will give us a thumbs up who
right.
know exactly
This
who
is
Cisco
not
and
this is
Ebert are.
not movie chat time. We're doing something
Yeah.
different here. Okay. The field note, it has an odd title because there's a clause and a comma. So follow me here. This is for Monday, August 4th. Today's field note. That's what we do on Lead Better. Talk about the field note. Without realizing it, leaders often displace, which is also a weird word, their frustration on, and that's also a controversial word in this headline, those with less power. Without realizing it, leaders often displace their frustration on those with less power. Now,
Yeah.
could there be more possibly going on in one headline, right? You have this oblivious leader who doesn't realize what's going on. They obviously have some issues, like there's some terrible thing that's occurred in their life. They have frustrations. Maybe there's peril. Maybe it's even the fate of the company. And so now they got to vent that frustration. It's got to go someplace, and it's going to go not where it should go, but onto a misdirected target. And particularly, it's not going to be the most powerful person in the room. So,
Yeah.
holy cow, is there a lot packed in there?
Yeah. No. Okay. So, is this more of a psychological therapy session than we normally talk about, or is that the direction that we're going to go?
I would say so. Now, I will say that in the 4 years of field notes and 1,500 of them, we have a lot of very simple ones that are very straightforward, very practical. Tomorrow's is exactly the opposite of this in the sense that it is what it is. This one, and we have a lot of very intelligent people in our firm. Our founder has a PhD, and sometimes there is a little bit of like, there's a wonk factor. Maybe we should start rating the field notes with their wonkiness level. And so sometimes you get into this, like, because there's got to be a Wikipedia entry, even if you didn't look for it, and I did not, for this displaced anger phenomenon, right?
Right.
And I use the kick the cat analogy because that's what we would all think of. Like, the cat didn't deserve anything, but the boss yelled at the person yells at their partner, the partner yells at the kid kicks the cat because everybody's just kicking it, their frustrations down all the way down, right? So, or you can cut to the chase and maybe you just kick the cat yourself. We're not advocating cat kicking here. No cat kicking, please.
So
with
there's
that,
going to be a wonkiness scale and a woo-woo scale that we've talked about earlier.
Yes, we have talked about the woo-woo scale. This is a wonkiness scale. So so do not cross the odd streams because you're going to get like a very bad reaction, in Ghostbuster style. Now, here we go. The question here is how often I would say, and I can actually think of a time or two in the last 2 days where I've probably have had a minor inclination where I kind of overreacted to something with one of my kids. Mm-hmm. Now, the question is, this factor of, we all know that we have frustrations in any organization, any family we're in. There are things that are just not going our way. And some people have a bigger problem dealing with those frustrations and they vent them. So
yes,
there's a question here too, because it says the leader's oblivious and they need to be called out. But mostly this field note is addressed to the leader themselves.
Yes.
And how do you put yourself in check to make this sort of decision? You're not going to do this. You're not going to be this way. And then that's a great thing to talk about. Like, what could be the things that we would do to make sure that we're never doing it? But then there is this hint in there that at some point, somebody may need to call the person out that's doing it because they're not even aware that they're doing it.
Yeah, it's right in the title.
We have a lot of stuff to get through here. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
So go ahead. Get it all done in the next 42 seconds.
Let's start with the without realizing it then. So there needs to be some kind of practice where you start to recognize, oh, I'm starting to feel frustrated, right? Mm-hmm. So what are those things? Maybe it's physiological. Maybe it's something just in your brain. Maybe you're starting to grip stuff tighter, right? But there needs to be this awareness where your body or your brain is doing things to you that you start to recognize, I'm starting to get frustrated.
Correct.
And then
so that recognition factor is the first big factor. Now, I guess it could also be for everybody else, which would be, you hope the leader's got the, I noticed my chest is feeling a little tight. Yes. Apparently, I just crushed my iPhone into a pile of silica. Right, that would be another sign. Now, you might also then be the person who's watching the leader and saying, "We should all probably run for the exits right now. I think this would be a good time for us all to leave."
Yes, and you probably shouldn't say it that loud, right?
Right, exactly.
You probably, even though you were whispering it, it made for a funny joke, which wasn't going to help the situation.
No, not at all.
So my I'll story time, because it's exactly this. We drove north from Greenville, South Carolina to Richmond, Virginia 2 days ago for my nephew's wedding. And we were caught in a horrible rainstorm. Yeah. And it was pouring sideways. And so I was not driving because I park in my family. I don't drive.
We're aware. You've told this story before.
Yes. And so I was navigating
psychological confession episode.
For my wife, which gas station that we should pull into. And I made the mistake of choosing a gas station that didn't have a very wide awning to sit under, right? But she was white knuckling this entire drive and quite frustrated because you have to drive 30 miles an hour on the interstate. And so her frustration was building. Now, remember, I park, I don't drive. So I was having fun on my phone while she was driving. And I didn't notice that it turned into like a real white knuckle moment for her. So when she pulled up to the gas station and the rain was going sideways, and I was like, I don't think I want to pump gas in the one that you're pulling up to. Maybe she's like, well, where do you want to go? Like, she was like so frustrated and right at the edge, right? And then I was like, well, not here. Let's go around to the other. And she made a turn, and it was raining so hard she didn't see that she was about to turn into a curb, like a curb that was right there. And so I had like two like points of correction and feedback to give her immediately.
Right.
And I got chewed out, right?
I see it.
And mostly because she just wasn't, she thought I was completely oblivious to how frustrating the whole situation was for her, because I was in La La Land able to just kind of play on my phone during her whole thing.
Of course,
right?
Yeah. Because you've already said she drives. So that means from your house in Texas to the Carolinas, to Virginia, back to the Carolinas, and tomorrow back to Texas. Who's driving?
She only when she needs to take a nap will she allow me to drive, right? Which is fine.
And then you're counting on that because then she's unconscious.
Yes. Because she won't do the controlling thing that
correcting your driving.
Yes.
Wow. Oh man alive. Please submit if you have comments or suggestions for the marriage therapy GoFundMe.
The frustration part is the fun part to talk about. Now, so she and I are able to like recognize early on. I was like, I said to her, wow, this frustration is coming out of nowhere. She's like, it's not out of nowhere. Look at the weather. Look what I've been. And I was like, I'm just right. And we were at Walmart, but that was the thing. I think what I said to her is the type of thing that I say to myself, which frustrated her, right? So I say out when I notice that I'm getting frustrated, I say to myself, wow, my frustration level is really elevating, right? And now when I say that to myself, it's a good like meta thing.
Yeah.
And it's like a communication to everyone else who can hear me. It's not really a warning, but it kind of acts as a warning. Wow, your dad's kind of feeling frustrated right now. But I'll say it just like that. Your dad's kind of feeling frustrated right now, right? But the observation out loud is good for me, right? But it's also good in the communication of everybody else. But I can't say that to my wife, like, wow, the frustration levels are really high right now. It did not work. It didn't work. But that's the solution that I usually bring to myself is to kind of like go meta.
Observe it, go meta and observe it. Right.
Yes.
So, but you also pointed out something that is the truth where this sequence happens, which is it's not that a frustrating thing happens and somebody lashes out. It's the combination of frustration, hitting another person, and then they're frustrated, which is kind of what was happening with me and my youngest yesterday on something that really didn't matter. So the question in all of this is, well, how do you stop this? Or how do we lessen it? Because none of us are going to stop it. We're all going to have frustration moments, and that's just the way it happens. By the way, it is statistically more a problem for men than women in many regards. Now, I think that there's a simple thing, which is actually an illustration that one of our managing directors uses in one of our videos in our main platform, which was counseling with a woman who was an executive who was having a little bit of this problem. It wasn't the frustration problem. It was the dominating the conversation problem. And so this woman just had the habit of writing on her legal pad, listen, breathe, ask questions, right? Listen, breathe, ask questions. And so I don't know why, of all the different illustrations we have across all of our platforms, maybe it's because I need it, possibly, but that idea of saying, well, at whatever moment there is, whatever frustration, can you take a moment to, maybe it's listen to yourself, maybe it's listen to other people, and then just breathe for a minute, right? And then ask some questions before you start yelling. Right? What did you think was going to happen there? How did you think this was going to go about? We see that we have this idea, we get the pressure cooker of this from the image in movies and television of the kitchen with the very high-strung chef who just kind of goes ballistic on everybody. But we know that's actually not necessary. And I gave the example recently where I had heard Anthony Bourdain give a talk, and he brought his friend, whose name I'm forgetting, who runs Le Bernardin in New York City, used to be a hothead, and then he became a Buddhist, and then he was just quiet. And if you're Thomas Keller at French Laundry, it's very silent in the kitchen, and so you can get the results that you need very calmly. And so the question is, can you get there? And some people are going to need to actually deal with it. But the point being, you're going to be, when you have these moments of frustration, you're not making it better. People may march faster for a beat or two, but eventually they're going to flee from you. Either your kids are going to withdraw, your employees will leave, your results will go down. So nobody wins. And so that's clear. We even know that, and yet we do it. So the question is just what are the steps that would work for most people to lessen the frequency and the volatility of that?
Right. Yeah. So we default to, I'm just going to get things done by coercion for this moment that I'm super frustrated because I can't think of it anyway. And coercion is very effective, but usually only just once. Right. And so if you remind yourself of that before, doing it, and most people aren't using coercive tactics by design. They're doing them because, maybe their brains are redlined and they can't think of anything else to do.
Yeah.
So.
But we all know that if we just work on, if we can, like at our house a few years ago, we had bought the new house. We were adding on to it. We had a general contractor, and Glenn, the other people on the crew would say, "Oh, that's why we called him the volcano." But I didn't know Glenn when he was the volcano. So over the next couple of years of working on projects, only once or twice did Volcano Glenn erupt. Right. Most of the time it was a low level simmer. Right. But there was a time when the Volcano Glenn probably got some things done, but maybe not for very long. So let's all be less the volcano.
Less volcano. Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you for your time today. Appreciate it. And thank you.
The cats are the ones who are appreciative. So
excellent.
See you, Mikey.
All right. Bye now.